I'm John Shearer at the west entrance to Yellowstone National Park, and coming up, what local business people are saying about bouncing back from the 2-month park shutdown.
Artificial spring runoff. I'm Chet Lehman. Here on the Madison River, that's something Northwestern Energy has to do every year at Hebgen Lake to make sure they don't damage this blue ribbon fishery. I have that story coming up.
Thousands of dollars to the Gallatin Valley Food Bank, all thanks to you. I'm Cody Boyer here in Bozeman, bringing you inside for donations paving the road forward.
It is 6:30 here on your Friday edition of Montana This Morning. It's Caitlin Corbett and Chet Lehman, and the Father's Day forecast is shaping up to already start off nice.
Not too bad. There's going to be a slight chance of showers, but all in all, it's going to be a really nice weekend. It is the first day of summer tomorrow, 3:44 p.m. Outside right now, not much to see. You can see it on satellite and radar. Pretty clear skies. That makes it a little chilly out there. Temperatures in the mid to upper 30s, low 40s for us right now. Your planner for today, get outside and enjoy it. It's going to be sunny or mostly sunny skies, I will say. Temperatures into the 70-degree range for Bozeman, upper 60s for Butte. Just a really delightful kind of day to wrap up spring. And as Caitlin mentioned, Father's Day is Sunday. That detailed forecast, 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chet. Well, we told you about the U.S. Senate's landmark passage of the Great American Outdoors Act. So what's next for the legislation that provides for permanent funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund? Well, it now heads to the House, which is expected to vote on that bill by July 4th. Montana's senior U.S. Senator Jon Tester says the credit for the funding bill should not go to politicians, but to the grassroots conservation and community organizations that worked for years to secure funding for public lands. President Trump has promised to sign that legislation into law. Meantime, an officer-involved shooting in Billings has left one person dead. Here's what we know so far. A member or members of the U.S. Marshals Violent Offender Task Force shot and killed a suspect on the 700 block of Cook Avenue. The marshals were attempting to apprehend the suspect at the residence when the incident occurred. That's according to Billings Assistant Police Chief Jeremy House. Billings police are investigating that shooting. Nearly 3 weeks after Yellowstone National Park reopened its gates in Montana, the tourist season is still trying to get a jump start. MTN's John Shearer reports on how businesses that depend on the park are rebounding.
So far, the number of people passing through the Montana Park entrances, like this one near West Yellowstone, the most popular entrance, is about 70% of what it was a year ago. But local businesses tell us that's not exactly what they're seeing.
2,207 cancellations, and we have had 657 reservations made after that. And we're probably going to be down 45% for the entire season.
That's kind of where we've been figuring, and we may be pleasantly surprised. We're hearing a few places are actually sold out for the 4th of July already, so it's good to hear.
Seeley says he thinks a lot of the traffic into the park so far are locals taking advantage of the smaller crowds. He says that's good, but it's not as much help as people coming in from out of state. Swenson says she hopes salvaging 60% of the season will be enough for local businesses.
And hopefully, I think a lot of what the governor has been doing with the CARES Act money that the state has received in grants and now the loan deferral program, that our businesses can really take advantage of that.
But we're used to challenges here in West Yellowstone. We have them all the time, and we've been able to adapt, and we will to this too.
Now, local business people are telling us they're really optimistic about July, August, and September, but quickly warn there's no way they'll be able to make up for the lost business from April and May when the park was closed. In West Yellowstone, I'm John Shearer, MTN News.
Many of the hotels in West Yellowstone say they are now operating with full staff, but restaurants and some other businesses are not yet fully staffed. In the Yellowstone National Park news as well, 2 women from Philadelphia have been charged and fined for being off trail and inside a thermal area at the park. On June 11th, 31-year-old Tara Duvali and 30-year-old Sarah Piotrowski were seen leaving the boardwalk and walking in a thermal area in the Midway Geyser Basin. Park officials say they damaged the fragile environment in that area. The 2 women were sentenced to 2 days in jail, fined $350, and ordered to pay restitution. They've also been banned from Yellowstone National Park for 2 years. Spring runoff happens each year as mountain snowpack melts. Those waters fill the rivers and streams, sometimes to bank-high levels for a period of time. However, for rivers and dams, the flow has changed, causing changes to the wildlife in the water systems below those dams. For Hebgen Dam, the world-renowned fisheries of the Madison River are downstream, so spring runoff has to be recreated. MTN's Chet Lehman talked with Northwestern Energy about how they do that for waters coming out of Hebgen Lake.
What you're looking at is the remnants of spring runoff, though it's a little different here on the Madison than it is on many rivers in Montana. Just a mile upstream is the Hebgen Dam, managed by Northwestern Energy. Each year they have to release a certain amount of water out of that dam to make sure that they do not damage this blue ribbon fishery.
When you have a dam on a river, it changes the flow regime of that river, and so what we're doing is we're trying to emulate a natural river system by releasing spring flows out of the dam to provide better fish habitat for spawning and for food source.
Those cold, rapid-flowing waters you see in the spring basically clean out the river system. As they recede, the sediments settle and the fish in the system can return to quality spawning areas. Spring runoff doesn't happen instantly, however. The amount of water released is slowly increased until peak, then equally slowly decreased. That keeps fish from becoming stranded. That effort protects plant life along the banks, which in turn protects insects, the primary food source for Madison's trout population.
A release of water out of Hebgen Dam to flush fine sediments out of the stream bed. And the purpose for doing this is to improve trout spawning habitat in the Madison River, which in turn also improves the insect populations that these trout eat.
These releases also help Hebgen itself. The reservoir can only hold so much water, much of which came in the form of traditional spring runoff from this river with its source in Yellowstone. For Northwestern Energy, it's a little bit like pretending to be Mother Nature, at least for a few weeks out of the year.
Yep, the weather still plays some little tricks on us sometimes, but we get to help manage that. So.
This year peak flow was on June 8th. Full runoff will conclude by early next week. Along the Madison River below the Hebgen Dam, Chet Lehman, MTN News.
The flow controls on Hebgen are timed to coincide with peak flow on the West Fork of the Madison each year. Times are tough for most Americans these days, and the same is true for organizations trying to lend a helping hand. MTN's Cody Boyer was at the Gallatin Valley Food Bank yesterday to tell us about its situation.
The first challenge was MTN News and Scripps together donated $6,000 to the Gallatin Valley Food Bank. Well, since 4:30 in the afternoon on Thursday, that challenge was met, and quickly.
We're here at the Gallatin Valley Food Bank.
2 hours on a Thursday afternoon. That's what we, Gallatin Valley Food Bank volunteers, the HRDC, and more had to work with. So we went into where it all happens. But even before that, the food bank has been working against the current, helping many with boxes filled with hundreds of pounds of food and beyond.
We see about 1,200 households in a month, and that ends up being about 60 households a day.
2 hours with a few live reports mixed in, there are bound to be some technical difficulties. We might have had some, but that's a factor that doesn't slow down an effort like the food banks. But with the pandemic ongoing, they can't receive donations of food. That's where the donation button comes in. Children even donated using their lemonade stand money, with every dollar counting towards those in trouble. Others donated in memory for those lost, like Norm.
Norm is donating in memory of his mom, volunteer here for years. I don't know why that's hitting me as hard as it is.
Then at 6:30, Don Rudberg walked up, having watched our live feed, technical issues and all.
I had to wait until the video recorder would play you back. And I said, oh, holy mackerel, I'm going to miss this thing.
In his hand, a check for $150.
I got that $1,200 check. I really don't need that. There are people that need that a whole lot more than I do.
In just 2 hours, with Don's check as the cherry on top, $6,550. When asked how he felt, all Don says is this.
I feel good about where I live. Really do.
In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Our parent company, Scripps, and local organizations working together to make a difference in our community.
I did the math, over $10,000 raised between Butte and Bozeman yesterday.
Wow.
Over 10 grand.
That's crazy.
Nice
Good work,
job,
people.
Southwest
Yes,
Montana.
we need a round of applause.
You did it. Nicely done. I love
Making a difference one day at a time.
Absolutely true.
Absolutely great news there.
Yep.
Almost 6:40 right now. We're going to take a break. A new report is in on the toll COVID-19 is taking on nursing homes in the U.S. What that shows is coming up. And first, here's a look at what's happening at 7 o'clock on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, dreamers rejoice. We hear from young immigrants celebrating the Supreme Court decision supporting the DACA program, allowing them to stay in the United States. Also, 155 years ago today, the last group of enslaved people in America were told they were free. Inside the push to make Juneteenth, as it's known, a national holiday. Plus, hear from a law professor who thinks voting and democracy itself may be in danger and what we need to do to fix it. Also, Sunday, of course, is Father's Day. We're going to talk to dads, including myself, about creating change for the next generation. We'll see you at 7.